If you've ever looked up beaches in Thailand, there's a good chance Phuket was one of the first names you saw. Long before social media, long before travel vlogs and drone shots became common, Phuket was already famous. It appeared in guidebooks, airline magazines, and glossy brochures that promised turquoise water, palm-lined beaches, and an easy version of tropical life. For many people around the world, Phuket didn't just represent a destination. It represented the idea of a vacation in Thailand itself. For decades, this island has been a starting point. First-time travelers land here because it feels familiar. Families choose it because it feels safe and well-developed. Backpackers arrive because it's connected, affordable, and easy to navigate. Over time, that accessibility became one of Phuket's greatest strengths. You didn't need to plan much, you didn't need to venture far. Everything was already here. Phuket also became a place people returned to. Some came back every year, others stayed longer than expected, a few never really left at all. Resorts expanded, roads were paved, entire neighborhoods formed around tourism. What was once a collection of beach towns slowly grew into something much larger, more structured, and more permanent. But with that growth came change. Phuket today doesn't feel quite the same as it once did, even for those visiting for the first time. The island is still beautiful, still lively, still full of energy, but there's a sense that it's constantly in motion now, that it rarely slows down. At certain times of day, the island feels stretched. Airports feel busier, roads feel tighter, beaches feel fuller. The quiet moments that many people imagine when they think of a tropical island are still there, but they're harder to find. You often have to look past the main roads, walk farther down the beach, or arrive earlier than planned. This doesn't mean Phuket is failing. In many ways, it's doing exactly what it was built to do: attract people. The question isn't whether Phuket is popular. That much is obvious. The question is what happens when popularity becomes constant, when high season starts to feel like the new normal, and when an island built for visitors begins to feel like it's hosting the entire world at once. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Thailand content. Arriving in Phuket today, the sense of movement starts almost immediately. The airport is active from early morning until late at night, with a steady flow of arrivals moving through immigration, baggage claim, and out toward the curb. Outside, drivers wait with signs, engines idling as they prepare for long trips across the island. It doesn't feel chaotic, but it rarely feels quiet. Once you're on the road, the island's pace becomes more noticeable. Main highways funnel traffic toward the west coast, and even short drives can take longer than expected. Motorbikes weave between lanes, vans inch forward in clusters, and buses stop frequently to load and unload passengers. The journey itself becomes part of the experience, not something you rush through, but something you adjust to. In areas like Patong, Kata, and Karan, the density is hard to ignore. Streets are lined with hotels stacked close together, tour offices advertising the same island trips, and restaurants competing for attention. Music overlaps from different directions. Neon signs flicker even during the day. There's a constant sense that something is always happening, even if you're not the part of it. Along the beaches, the scene shifts, but the feeling remains. Umbrellas stretch across large sections of sand, set close enough that personal space becomes limited. Vendors walk by, offering drinks, snacks, and excursions. Jet skis idle near shore, while boats wait farther out, ready to move when their groups arrive. The water is clear, the sand is soft, and the scenery still looks exactly like the photos. But the space feels shared. For many visitors, this is their first impression of Phuket. It's exciting, energetic, and full of life. For others, it can feel surprisingly intense. Finding a quiet spot takes more effort. Walking slowly becomes harder in crowded areas. Even simple moments like sitting by the beach or crossing the street require more awareness. None of this is necessarily negative. Phuket isn't hiding what it is. It's a place designed to host people, and it does that well. But the first few days on the island often come with an adjustment period, especially for travelers expecting something slower or more secluded. Phuket delivers beauty and convenience, just with far more company than many imagine. Phuket didn't become crowded all at once. The conditions that led to today's situation were built gradually, over years of planning, promotion, and steady growth. Long before social media accelerated travel trends, Phuket was already positioned as one of Thailand's most accessible destinations. It had international flights, large-scale resorts, reliable roads, and an established tourism workforce. In many ways, it was designed to scale. Throughout the 2000s and 2010s, visitor numbers continued to rise. Hotels expanded upward and outward. New beach clubs, shopping areas, and entertainment districts appeared to meet demand. Infrastructure improved to keep up, but mostly just enough. Each addition solved a short-term need while pushing the island a little closer to its limits. Then in 2020, everything stopped. Flights were grounded, hotels closed their doors. Beaches that were normally filled with umbrellas and boats sat empty. For the first time in decades, Phuket experienced extended silence. Roads cleared, businesses shut down, entire areas that relied on tourism went dark. For many residents, the pause was financially devastating, but it also revealed how dependent the island had become on constant movement. When travel finally returned, it didn't trickle back in. It surged. Pent-up demand, relaxed restrictions, and renewed global interest in Thailand brought visitors back quickly. Airlines reinstated routes. Tour operators reopened. Hotels turned their lights back on. But the return happened faster than the island could recalibrate. Unlike the gradual growth of earlier decades, this rebound compressed years of recovery into a much shorter time frame. Phuket didn't ease back into tourism. It reactivated at near full capacity. Popular areas filled almost immediately. Peak season started feeling longer, and the line between high season and low season began to blur. At the same time, traveler behavior had changed. Shorter trips, packed itineraries, and social media-driven hotspots concentrated visitors into the same places at the same times. Instead of spreading naturally across the island, tourism became more focused, more intense, and more visible. Phuket didn't fail to manage its success. It simply absorbed it as quickly as possible. The systems that worked when growth was steady were suddenly under pressure when demand returned all at once. What we're seeing now isn't the result of a single decision, but the outcome of years of development meeting an unusually fast recovery. Walking through Phuket's streets, there's a rhythm that stands out. Scooters hum past, vendors call from colorful stalls, and waves break quietly on distant beaches. For a moment, it's neither crowded nor busy, just the island itself, breathing and waiting, caught between past emptiness and present energy. Spend enough time in Phuket, and you start to hear the same conversations repeated in different places. They come up at hotel lobbies and beachside restaurants, during boat rides, and in passing comments between travelers comparing notes. Most visitors aren't angry. Many are still enjoying their trip. But there's a shared sense that the experience isn't quite what they expected. Some talk about the crowds first. Beaches that look wide and open in photos feel smaller once you arrive. Popular viewpoints fill quickly. Island tours run on tight schedules with boats lining up at the same stops. Even early mornings don't always guarantee quiet anymore. For travelers who imagine space and calm, the reality can feel surprisingly busy. Others mention the pace. Days feel packed, not by choice but by circumstance. Getting from one place to another takes longer than planned. Traffic becomes part of daily scheduling. Waiting for transport, food, or activities becomes routine. None of it is dramatic, but it adds up. By the end of the day, some visitors feel more tired than relaxed. There are also comments about atmosphere. In certain areas, especially around Patong, the sensory overload can be intense. Music overlaps from multiple directions. Neon signs stay lit from morning until night. Promotions, menus, and tour offers compete for attention. For some people, that energy is exciting. For others, it's overwhelming. Repeat visitors often notice the difference the most. They talk about how places feel busier than they remember, how quiet moments are harder to find, and how familiar beaches now feel more structured, more commercial. It's not that Phuket has lost its appeal. It's that the balance feels different. At the same time, many tourists are quick to add a qualifier. They still say the water is beautiful, the service is friendly, the food is good, the value is there. Their concerns aren't about quality, they're about density. What stands out is that these reactions don't come from one type of traveler. Families, couples, solo visitors, and long-term guests all express similar thoughts in different ways. Phuket isn't disappointing people outright. It's challenging their expectations, especially for those who came looking for escape rather than activity. A gentle breeze moves through palm trees. Distant waves lap the shore. For a moment, the crowds fade away. Crowding in Phuket isn't always obvious at first glance. The beaches are still blue, the resorts are still polished, and the island continues to present itself well to visitors. But beneath that surface, the pressure created by constant tourism is becoming harder to ignore. Roads are one of the most visible examples. Phuket's main routes were never designed for the volume of vehicles they now carry daily. As more hotels, condominiums, and commercial areas have been built, traffic has increased faster than road capacity. Bottlenecks form easily, especially during peak hours, and even short distances can take much longer than expected. For residents and workers who rely on these roads every day, congestion isn't an inconvenience, it's a routine reality. Environmental systems feel similar strain. Waste management has to scale up continuously to match visitor numbers. Beaches require constant cleaning. Water use increases during dry seasons when demand is already high. While much of this pressure remains invisible to tourists, it requires ongoing effort behind the scenes to prevent long-term damage. Some of Phuket's most famous natural sites have already shown signs of stress. In the past, places like Maya Bay were temporarily closed to allow coral and marine life to recover after years of heavy foot traffic and boat activity. These closures weren't symbolic. They were necessary. Even now, access is limited and controlled to prevent the same issues from returning. Boat traffic around the island has also increased. Popular snorkeling and island hopping routes see steady streams of vessels throughout the day. Anchoring, fuel use, and noise all add up over time, affecting marine ecosystems that are sensitive to disruption. Managing these impacts requires regulation, enforcement, and cooperation, not all of which are easy to maintain consistently. Infrastructure has tried to keep up. New developments promise improved facilities, better drainage, and expanded utilities. But development itself brings additional load. Each solution creates new demand, pushing systems closer to their limits again. None of this means Phuket is on the verge of collapse. The island has adapted before and continues to adjust, but the margin for error is smaller now. The more crowded Phuket becomes, the less room it has to absorb mistakes, delays, or unexpected surges in visitors. The challenge isn't whether Phuket can handle tourism, it's how much pressure it can sustain while still protecting the environment and maintaining livability for the people who call the island home. From an economic standpoint, Phuket is doing what it's always done best. Hotels are busy, restaurants are open, tour boats run daily. After years of uncertainty, income has returned to much of the island. For many businesses, this level of activity isn't just welcome, it's necessary. Tourism supports nearly every part of Phuket's economy. From hotel staff and drivers to cleaners, vendors, guides, and small shop owners, countless livelihoods depend on a steady flow of visitors. When tourism stopped in 2020, the impact was immediate and severe. Savings disappeared, businesses closed. Many people left the island in search of work elsewhere. That experience left a lasting impression. Because of that, crowds today are often viewed through a different lens by locals. What feels overwhelming to visitors can feel reassuring to those whose income depends on it. Busy streets mean jobs. Full hotels mean stability. A packed beach means tomorrow's bills can be paid. But economic. Recovery comes with trade-offs. As demand increases, so do prices. Rent rises. Property values climb. Everyday expenses become more expensive, not just for tourists, but for residents as well. For workers in lower-paying roles, the cost of living can rise faster than wages. Tourism also reshapes the island's priorities. Areas that generate the most revenue attract the most investment, while quieter communities may see fewer improvements. Local businesses often have to compete with larger operators who can absorb higher costs and market more aggressively. Over time, this can change the character of neighborhoods, making them feel more commercial and less personal. There's also a deeper dependence at play. When an economy relies heavily on one industry, it becomes vulnerable to external shocks. Global events, policy changes, or shifts in travel trends can ripple through the island quickly. Phuket experienced that reality firsthand during the pandemic, and it remains a concern moving forward. Phuket isn't choosing between tourism and no tourism. That choice doesn't exist. The real question is how much tourism is sustainable, economically, socially, and environmentally, without eroding quality of life for residents or the experienced visitors come for in the first place. For now, the island continues to move forward, balancing opportunity and pressure at the same time. Tourism has brought Phuket this far. The challenge ahead is making sure it doesn't become the island's only path forward. Not every visitor responds to Phuket's crowds in the same way. Some accept it as part of the experience, a bustling hub where beaches, markets, and nightlife coexist with thousands of other travelers. But many are starting to look for alternatives, seeking quieter spaces and slower rhythms that still feel authentically Thai. Some choose to stay outside the main tourist hubs. Instead of Patong or Kata, they head to smaller towns on the east coast or up north near Mai Khao. These areas are quieter, less commercialized, and often offer more personal interactions with locals. Roads are less congested and beaches feel more open. While the amenities aren't always as polished or numerous, the trade-off is space, calm, and a chance to observe a different side of island life. Others adjust the timing of their visits. Early mornings, weekdays, or off-season months can make a noticeable difference in how crowded Phuket feels. Travelers who take this approach often comment that the island regains some of its charm when they avoid peak traffic and tour schedules. Even a short shift in planning can transform the experience from hectic to manageable. Some visitors are skipping Phuket entirely in favor of nearby islands. Places like Krabi, Koh Yao, or Koh Lanta provide similar scenery but with fewer crowds. These islands often have smaller resorts, calmer beaches, and more space between boats and sunbathers. For those seeking tranquility or a more intimate connection with nature, the choice is clear. Others adjust expectations rather than locations. They accept that Phuket is busy and plan their days around it, focusing on early excursions, lesser-known viewpoints, or private tours. They find that understanding the island's rhythm, when and where it fills up, can make the experience far less stressful. Across these approaches, one thing is consistent. Phuket remains a top destination, but it no longer guarantees solitude. For some, the crowds are part of the energy. For others, they prompt a reevaluation of where and how to spend their time. In either case, the island is adapting, and travelers are learning to adapt along with it. Phuket isn't empty, it isn't declining, and it isn't losing its appeal. But it is changing, slowly, steadily, and in ways that aren't always immediately obvious to first-time visitors. The island that once offered quiet beaches and long stretches of open sand now feels busier, denser, and more structured. What was once an escape into tropical calm has become for some a destination defined by activity, energy, and constant motion. This change isn't necessarily negative. Crowds mean businesses survive, resorts stay open, jobs return to local families. The local economy thrives. For many residents, the busyness of the island is a lifeline, a sign that tourism is working and that their livelihoods remain secure. Without these visitors, Phuket would face serious economic challenges, something the pandemic made very clear. But the trade-offs are real. Visitors may spend more time in traffic than on the beach. Popular spots are more crowded. Quiet moments, once easy to find, now require planning, patience, or travel to less frequented areas. Environmental pressures, infrastructure demands, and social impacts also grow with visitor numbers, subtly shaping how the island functions and feels. Phuket is also adapting. New areas are opening for visitors, regulations are evolving, and travelers themselves are adjusting, choosing quieter beaches, exploring smaller islands nearby, or modifying schedules to avoid congestion. Even as the island's energy increases, there are still ways to experience the beauty, culture, and charm that made Phuket famous in the first place. Ultimately, Phuket is no longer the island it once was, but that doesn't mean it's worse. It's simply more crowded, more complex, and more connected to global tourism than ever before. For some, this is exciting. For others, it's overwhelming. And for the island itself, it's a test of balance, how to maintain the beauty, economy, and environment that drew the world here in the first place. For now, Phuket remains one of Thailand's most famous destinations. It is still vibrant, still alive, still undeniably beautiful. But it is also a reminder that popularity comes with consequences, and that the more people a place hosts, the more it must adapt. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.